Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Back and better than ever atop the Murchison building overlooking Battleship, North Carolina. You're tuned in to the Big Talker, 106.7 FM. We are 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Monday, a fresh start to the broadcast week, the 19th of July, 2021. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to be a part of the program. That's 910-299-7535. Video portion of the show, of course, available through our social media platforms. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and comment in real time and follow along with us through the many different platforms we offer each day, 7 until 10 a.m. to pick up the most listened to, entertaining, and informative news talk program here in the Cape Fear region. Well, it was a big weekend for the city of Wilmington. If you happen to be throughout downtown, particularly towards the newer part of the downtown area along the Cape Fear River, as our $20+ million riverfront park venue opened for 3 straight sold-out widespread panic shows. And there's no doubt, if you've followed this story over the last number of years, it's taken a lot of bumps, delays, a lot of dough to get to the point where they were able to move forward with the opening of this new massive amphitheater, which no doubt brought thousands of people from all over the southeastern part of the United States to our port city over this past weekend. And having helped some friends who brought in others from all over the southeastern part of the United States, getting them transportation to and from the venue, not only on Friday, but Saturday. And then late last night, as the show was delayed a few hours because of the storms that rolled through the area, by the time it was all said and done, the fireworks display went on around midnight to signify the end of the act. And by the time I rolled into my house last night, it was about 1:45 this morning as I got some of my friends and neighbors back to their homes safe and sound the way they asked me to a couple of weeks back when I said, hey, I'll be the driver over the weekend just to get a good sense of what the atmosphere was like here in downtown Wilmington with the opening of the new Live Oak Bank Pavilion at Riverfront Park. It had a lot of friends, colleagues, and others from throughout the area. There were a number of course, elected officials who made their way down to 1, 2, or all 3 shows over the course of the last few days. Happy to see our small businesses, of course, in the area getting an opportunity to rake in the dollars, and that was the case, at least from what I witnessed on Sunday afternoon as the storms swept through the area. And the realization came to many of the fans out there that there was going to be some sort of delay, keeping a close eye on the weather radar and cruising through the streets here of downtown Wilmington. It looked like a Saturday night on a Sunday evening. And in talking with a few managers of these restaurants and other watering holes in the area, they're like, man, we haven't seen this sort of traffic in a long time. So no doubt the venue, at least throughout the course of this weekend, brought folks from all over. In fact, the people I was driving this weekend, they had a big pool party on Saturday afternoon before they went to the show. And I met people from Charlotte, Asheville, of course, Martinsville, Tennessee, Savannah, Georgia. So there was lots of money flowing into the area this weekend thanks to the new Riverfront Park. Again, definitely some bumps along the road over the course of the weekend, but all three shows went on as scheduled. It was a late Sunday night, early Monday morning, no doubt. And in talking with a lot of these panic heads, these are, well, frankly, they're very in tune with the different sorts of concerts that this group that has kind of a cult following and all of the different places they've gone to over the course of their time as fans of this specific group of artists. By the end of Friday night, they had a pretty good lay of the land and outlook as far as the pros, the cons of this new venue. Great to see it opened, and of course, 3 straight sold-out shows with 7,000 or so people attending each concert over the last few days. I think there are some questions as far as the layout, the design of the amphitheater from the logistical standpoint. Of course, a very tight space here along the river. Not many ways in and out of the venue, which could present some logistical concerns. Heaven forbid there's ever any sort of emergency in that area during a time when there are thousands of people moving down basically the hill next to PPD towards the entrance of the amphitheater, sort of one way in and one way out, a big bottleneck of people. When you've got 6,000, 7,000 people all lined up in the street, it's 95 degrees. Heard some folks a little concerned that there was not water readily available to concert goers. The fact that it was 95 degrees with heat, humidity, and who knows what getting ingested by the 7,000 fans who were in attendance. Kind of in a rush to open, of course, given the fact that there was some pressure building here for the city and Live Nation, the organization and the company that holds the ownership and management rights of the Riverfront Park venue. I think kind of a rush to get things moving. There's still some ongoing construction in that area, which limited access, and I'm sure definitely a learning lesson. And given the fact that the cultist widespread panic fan base are very kind of mellow people, kind of go as it flows sort of mindset, I think it set up beautifully for Live Nation to knock it out of the park along with the city, to see some of the views and different pictures from the Riverwalk, from inside the venue, to the blimp, so to speak, view, maybe a drone photo that was taken. It looked like, no doubt, they were able to overcome some of the obstacles that they've had to deal with because of the delays, the rise in costs. But no doubt, I think there are some obvious issues that they'll be getting ironed out, again, from a logistical standpoint, as they get more familiar, of course, with hosting these sorts of events in the downtown area, given the mass amounts of folks. No doubt, maybe some safety issues that come along with clumping in 7,000 people essentially into one gate that brings you in and out of the concert. And maybe some complaining that you'll hear in the not-so-distant future as far as just the design of the amphitheater, in that the layout, you have the stage, of course, and then you've got the VIP seating, the pit, and then you've got the lawn seats. But one thing that we quickly noticed was that everything is basically flat. There is no sort of hill or any sort of way in which those sitting on the lawn have a real good view, of course, of the act on stage, given that there are no areas that are sort of raised, which you typically see at many venues across the country when you go enjoy some live entertainment, and you get those lawn seats. You're typically up, and you got kind of like a bowl sort of way of looking down towards the stage. That's not the case. It's sort of like level, like you're in a parking lot, essentially, hundreds of feet away, and you got to peek around some shoulders, get on your tippy toes to maybe get a glance of the artists. Of course, there were raving reviews, at least from the folks that I was transporting to and from over the weekend as far as the sound system goes. So, all in all, I think the city of Wilmington patting themselves on the back from over the weekend. Though, if you were to come down here to Wilmington along the river over the course of the last 3 days, as a local or as somebody who may be here not to see a show, probably a little frustrated with the parking situation. We knew that parking was going to be, and is always in downtown Wilmington throughout particularly the summer months, always a challenge. You get into the parking decks. Well, during the events, parking, well, charging flat rates rather than getting in and out as you typically can on a day-to-day basis if you come downtown to do business or enjoy one of the area restaurants that, well, killed it over the weekend. And then the weather rolled in Sunday, and some of the fans kind of anxious to see how they were going to play it. And I think as far as the amphitheater goes and those with the decision rights to postpone it for a few hours before the weather cleared and to be able to get a full 3-hour set in, I think, well, they made the right decision. And again, it carried a little later on into the evening, the latest show of all three, and that the final encore and song wrapped up for the weekend, as I said, around midnight this morning. You had 7,000 fans all gearing up. And in learning more about the band that was in town, a lot of the panic heads were telling me that you can never miss a Sunday show. And the show went on. But again, as I was trying to find some parking after I dropped them off at a few watering holes, noticing that all the decks, parking decks, even those up here towards the historic area, well, charging flat rates. And, you know, if I needed to get in or out for 15, 20 minutes, I was unable to do so. So no doubt some logistical issues that they'll have to get ironed out. No doubt some things as far as herding cattle, meaning thousands of people in and out of the venue, I think may bring some concerns. And then having to, of course, reinvest into the amphitheater after you get, say, a soaking rain with an area where thousands of people are stomping and walking over a brand new lawn. I think we'll watch how this plays out into the future as far as more investment that is needed into this amphitheater, in addition to the $20+ million in taxpayer money that made this, well, dream a reality for many here in the area that have been trying to twist the arms and work over city officials to ultimately make this thing become what it is. And speaking of the new Riverfront Park venue, it will be up for discussion during Tuesday's city council meeting here in the area, talking about some sweetheart deals potentially for those in elected office and within the city ranks, as there are two related items that will be on the agenda for Wilmington City Council this week that proposes the city buying dedicated seats for the concert season using money from the city's general fund, who, of course, would have first dibs under this resolution, an item that has been put forth on tomorrow's agenda. Access to the VIP seating. Well, it gives city council members, of course, first dibs on using tickets for these purposes. As the resolution reads, along with tickets being provided at face value by Live Nation for quote-unquote economic development, city employee performance recognition, and quote-unquote community development. Be interested to see what that is defined as. But we're looking at somewhere around $14,000+ per VIP seat that the city is looking into purchasing through Live Nation. And our city council members, of course, would get first dibs on using those tickets for the very vague purposes that were laid out on the agenda of tomorrow night's city council meeting. We'll be following this story, of course, as the concert season progresses and as we get a better feel as far as the economic impact is concerned when we bring in folks from all over the southeastern part of the country into our beach town for a few days to enjoy some of the new amenities that we now have along the Cape Fear River. So that's the big story here locally as we move through our first segment this morning here on the Big Talker FM. In other parts of the city, well, news that you're used to hearing. Unfortunate news that we typically see over the course of a weekend, particularly have seen it over the last year or so. Coming off a year in 2020 when there were more homicides in the city of Wilmington than any other time on an annual basis. Well, that trend continuing not only, of course, here in the city, but also elsewhere all around the country. And this morning, 2 people, including a juvenile, were recovering after they were shot Friday night, struck multiple times by bullets fired into a home they were in between Wrightsville Avenue and Wilshire Boulevard. Shots fired into a residence from the outside. One of the juveniles that was struck taken to the hospital by another individual. Another female transported to the hospital. Fortunately, they're both in stable condition. But again, just showcasing the fact that while, of course, it is all good and to see, of course, folks in town spending money, thousands of people attending an entertainment venue, that there are other parts of the city that, frankly, our city officials have ignored for a long, long time and have yet to, well, put forth, in my estimation, the attention needed to get a grip on some of the rampant violence that we continue to see in parts of our city on a nearly daily basis. And frankly, it goes ignored on a lot of cases by those in elected office. Speaking of elected office, Friday marked the final day for the candidate filing period for the upcoming municipal elections. When we signed off the air Friday morning, Mayor Bill Saffo was running unopposed. That changed within an hour or two after we signed off Friday, as former state senator and former City of Wilmington mayor Harper Peterson filed to challenge Bill Saffo for his seat this upcoming November in leading city council as Wilmington mayor. We'll tell you a little bit about Harper and, of course, his platform that he announced on Facebook following his filing. A man who's been around the area for a long time, serving as the city's mayor back in the late 90s, early 2000s, most recently as our state senator here in New Hanover County. Guy who's been around for the better part of 25 years in a political sense in one way, shape, or form. Well, he's trying to tell the voters of Wilmington that he'll be bringing new, bold, fresh ideas to the city. And we'll tell you about his new, bold, fresh ideas as we move through our broadcast here this morning on the Big Talker FM. We're 24 minutes past 7 a.m. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535. Great to be with you as we kick off another broadcast week here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Shiver in the dark, it's raining in the park, but meantime, sound of the river, you stop and you hold everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time. You feel alright when you hear the music ring.
If the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that the easiest way for germs to get into your body is the nose. We all know how to wash our hands, but how do you clean your nose? For over 2 million Americans, the answer is Navage Nasal Care. Navage uses powered suction to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs that cause congestion, colds, and flu, so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and feel healthier. Better yet, Navage is all natural and drug-free. That's why one of America's top respiratory hospitals recommends nasal irrigation to stay healthy, explaining that bacteria and viruses thrive in warm and moist environments and that you can wash away those germs so they don't make your nose their home. Experience Navage at zero risk. Go to Navage.com, buy Navage, and use it for a month. If you're not delighted, return it for a full refund. There's nothing to lose and a lifetime of better breathing to gain. Also available at Target, Walgreens, CVS, Bed Bath, and Rite Aid. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gabe Frank of the Frank Institute, and I wanted to tell you about our IV vitamin, infusion, and hydration therapies. These IVs are the most effective treatment for vitamin and nutrition deficiencies available, and with our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
Attention patriots, listen in to hear President Trump explain why Ted Budd is the right choice for United States Senate.
There's somebody that I think is very special, somebody that I've worked with, always been with me. This man's a great politician, but more importantly, he's somebody that loves the state of North Carolina. He loves the country, but this gentleman is going to be your next senator. He's going to be somebody that you're going to be so proud of. He will fight like hell. He will fight like nobody fights, and a lot of you don't know him that well, but you're going to know him. Ted Budd.
I am giving him my complete and total endorsement. We're going to work with him. We're going to campaign with him. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races and do not stand for our values. So I'm going with Congressman Ted Budd, complete and total endorsement.
I'm Ted Budd, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ted Budd for Senate. See the video at tedbudd.com.
Couple of hot summer nights over the last few days in cruising in and around the new Riverfront Park venue over the last few nights just to get a little handle on how things played out on the opening weekend. New $20+ million Riverfront Park venue opens up, and well, folks dropping like flies out there with 90-degree temperatures as the show got underway around 8 o'clock each night, delayed an hour last night. Was scheduled to start an hour earlier Sunday with a 7 o'clock show time. Due to the storms and the weather-related issues, they did not get on stage until 9. Went till around midnight this morning. By the time I dropped off the folks I was transporting to and from, it was around 1 o'clock this morning. So quick turnaround for me. Of course, if you'd like to help me out, 910-299-7535. We'll have Mayor Saffo on a little later on this week, get his thoughts on what the opening weekend, what he's hearing from this new venue that's been in the works for years, now a reality, despite kind of the rush to get these gates opened. And I think in large part a learning curve for the organization with the management rights to this facility, and of course, how they'll be working with the city to make sure, we've got plenty of people paying attention to this new venue. I think in large part they knocked it out of the park, given the fact that at least the folks that I was transporting to and from, frankly, sort of on the hippie-ish side of things, and they know the ins and outs of going to a show, and in large part they were giving raving reviews. There were some negative comments surrounding just the logistics, getting in and out, the fact that water, given the heat, not necessarily readily available, clumping in 7,000 people with one way in, one way out. So a few things that I think will have to get ironed out in the future to make this venue one that will attract thousands from all over the region in the months to come as the concert season continues. Frankly, for myself, watching these people sweat their rear ends off and then get into the van each night, I'm doubtful that I'll be attending a concert during the summer months. The beauty of living here, living where people vacation, is that the weather is gorgeous for much of the year. So we don't have to go out and experience the heat like many did over the last few days. I'm thinking more of a March, April, May, sort of late September, October, November concert goer here to the new amphitheater downtown. To me, it's not worth it to sweat my rear end off at 95 degrees and not have water readily available and some other things that would make me very comfortable to go see a live show. Ray Nothstine going to join us from CarolinaJournal.com today, as he does each Monday morning just after 8 o'clock. Ray has a piece at their website, CarolinaJournal.com, focused on, of course, the discussion we're having statewide surrounding the new standards related to social studies in our K-12 public schools. As you know, the State Board of Education approved new social studies standards not too long ago, and now local districts are kind of hurrying themselves to get this new standard implemented within the local schools with the upcoming academic year right around the corner. Of course, year-round schools, already kids back in the classroom within our listening area. And in regards to social studies standards, well, that topic may be up for discussion tomorrow at the continued New Hanover County School Board meeting. We had Pete Wildeboer on the program Friday. Board of Education member gave his thoughts on what he saw play out last Tuesday at that chaotic meeting, which forced a postponement only for the meeting to be picked up virtually tomorrow. Ray's piece at CarolinaJournal.com, of course, in his eyes, he believes it's time to emphasize how he can improve history and civics, or believe that it's time now to emphasize how we can improve history and civics to help bolster a free society under a banner of ordered liberty. Kind of a word salad there, but he believes a good starting point to emphasize the new standards is to look at the core basic knowledge that reinforces America's founding principles and documents. He believes young students should be able to speak coherently and competently about the purpose of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. He also believes that particular attention should be given to the meaning of quote-unquote rights, which of course is not something given us to us by the state or government or man, but that those rights are inherent or self-evident. And that rights don't mean we get free stuff from the government, but rather rights shield us from the tyrannical tendencies of centralized power. The right of the individual against the state is the keystone of our Constitution, as said once of John F. Kennedy. We'll talk with Ray about the new standards and why he believes the focus should be on, of course, our founding principles and documents, and that has nothing to do with ignoring or quote-unquote whitewashing our history, but he believes that's where the root of history and civic lessons should begin within our public education courses K through 12. We'll hear from Ray just after 8 o'clock. Also, Pete Kaliner from the western part of the state. Our twice-a-month mountains to the coast discussion. What are some of the things going on in his region of North Carolina? Some of the things he's keeping an eye on from a legislative standpoint in Raleigh, our state capital city, with lawmakers continuing to work through the people's business within the North Carolina General Assembly. We'll hear from Pete in the second hour of our program as well. Donna Gregory with WWAY News will round out the guest list here on this Monday morning with her weekly appearance just after 9:30. Some of the headlines that you may have missed locally from over the weekend. Bottom of the hour news break. Your calls at 910-299-7535.
Hello, I'm Donna Gregory with WWAY News. A shooting in Wilmington has left 2 people injured, including a juvenile. On Friday night, shots were fired into a home on Downey Branch Lane off of Wilshire Boulevard. 2 females were shot multiple times. They were taken to Cape Fear Hospital, where one underwent surgery. Both victims reportedly are in stable condition. Officers still looking for a suspect. North Carolina's unemployment rate has fallen for the 9th consecutive month. The State Commerce Department reports the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate was 4.6% in June compared to 4.8% in May. Data shows more people entering North Carolina's labor force and more hirings in June compared to the month before. The unemployment rate is well below levels at the height of the pandemic restrictions last year, when the jobless rate in North Carolina soared to 13.5%. Happening later this morning, the Wilmington City Council will be meeting at 8:30. After the agenda briefing, the City Council will hear a report on reduction efforts. Hello, I'm Donna Gregory with WWAY News. A shooting in Wilmington has left 2 people injured, including a juvenile. Police are still looking for a suspect. On Friday night, shots were fired into a home on Downey Branch Lane off of Wilshire Boulevard. 2 females were shot multiple times. They were taken to Cape Fear Hospital, where one underwent surgery. Both victims reportedly are in stable condition. North Carolina's unemployment rate has fallen for the 9th consecutive month. The State Commerce Department reporting the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate is 4.6% for June compared to 4.8% in May. Data showing more people entering North Carolina's labor force and more hirings in June compared to the month before. The unemployment rate is well below levels at the height of the pandemic restrictions last year, when the jobless rate soared to 13.5%. Happening this morning, the Wilmington City Council will be meeting at 8:30. After the agenda briefing, the council will hear a report on speed reduction efforts on Greenville Loop Road and an update to the use of American Rescue Act funds. And the New Hanover County Board of Education is planning to reconvene tomorrow after an abrupt and early ending to its meeting last week. The meeting will resume at 5:30 p.m. and will be held remotely. The public can watch the meeting online. All speakers who had previously signed up but didn't get a chance to speak at last week's board meeting will have the opportunity to pre-record comments. At last week's meeting, things got out of control, and the meeting fell apart, with the board opting to put things on pause. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Donna Gregory. Have a great day.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Well, today is going to be a bit on the unsettled side. We have a front that's going to be stalled across the Carolinas, increasing our chance for scattered showers and storms throughout the day today, and temperatures are going to be cooler than normal. Average highs this time of year are in the low 90s, and today, all across the Cape Fear, we're only going to top off in the low to middle 80s, with those scattered showers increasing in coverage later this afternoon into the evening hours, and then tonight, our temperatures will be falling back down into the low to middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Down at this yellow-haired girl, Mr. Jones.
All right, as we move through the first hour of our program, some unsettled weather looks to be upon us as it was yesterday and Sunday evening. So if you caught one of those downpours, just a reminder to take your safety and put it towards the top of the priority list driving on these roadways here across southeastern North Carolina. 910-299-7535 is our number if you'd like to call into the show. And caller, you're with us this morning. I hope you had a great weekend as I did. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, Joe Fisher.
Hey, Freddie the Fish. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm heading in to get my ears lowered so that by Wednesday I'll be able to head out to Boston for a big conference I'm going up to there. It's going to be a history conference, and no better time than to bring up the subject of C. Bradley Thompson's award-winning book, America's Revolutionary Mind. I know you have a copy of it.
Certainly do.
And that would be, if we could get that book instituted into the curriculum in the New Hanover schools and, of course, across the whole United States, it would be a boon to liberty and freedom.
Well, something that is sorely lacking, of course, from the mindsets of many of our young people, the importance of freedom and liberty in our country, in that as I was driving on Market Street, I think Saturday afternoon, I noticed a contingency of around 20 or so people waving American and Cuban flags on the side of the road. Amazing that in this day here, after a year of watching all of the unrest here downtown Wilmington, because America is a terrible place for these folks, at least in their eyes, to live, work, and play, that there are some people that still take their freedoms and liberties of the utmost importance in the way we work through the lives day to day to make sure that we have what we need and when we need it here in this country.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't see the Biden administration mentioning any of that. As a matter of fact, they worked not to mention it because, let's face it, the Biden administration are neo-communist, and they support particular the revolution of Cuba by Fidel Castro and his brother and the people that are in charge there now. So, yeah, you don't have a lot of people fighting to and getting on rafts and floating, trying to float back to Cuba, do you?
No, in fact, they're doing everything and anything they can to create flotation devices to get them 90 miles offshore, putting their lives in danger, their children's lives in danger any way and every way to try and seek some hope and better opportunity. But apparently, according to some in our country, the ways of life in Cuba, we should be modeling ourselves after them when it comes to education, when it comes to health care. I guess, as they want to level the playing field and create equal outcomes, at the end of the day, we kind of all know how that works. Equal outcomes mean, well, many people and masses of folks impoverished because of the equal outcomes the elites and the government officials try to impose on everyone.
Yeah, everybody equally shabby.
Yeah, I would say, again, and also one of the things that we're hearing too is blame being placed on policy implemented on by the United States. The economic embargo that has been in place for a long time. Lots of blame being put towards this U.S. economic embargo for the crisis in Cuba. But I think Hannah Cox laid it out fairly well. If Cuba, was such on the up and up, meaning in their communist tendencies, why do you need capitalism, to back up the model of governance that has been implemented in the island nation for 90 years if it was creating such great circumstances for their people? Why would you need a capitalist nation to help provide the services and goods that the communists say that they should be doling out to their people?
That's true.
Fish, you have a good trip up to Boston this time of year, probably the nicest time of year to get up to New England. Boston, a cool city if you, of course, go and observe some of the historical sights and sounds. Now, of course, the politics of that area of the country, a little skewed to the left, obviously. But Boston, one of the many great cities in our country, and a very cool place to go and enjoy some time. And Fish, you have a safe trip. I'm talking about getting your ears lowered. I got mine lowered last week. I got to say, my guy Fu, that's Phu. I've had to stop going to my good buddy Pittsburgh Joe up at the Corner Buzz in Ogden. He has retired. I've been getting my haircut from the same guy for 15 years, and he retired, so I had to go seek another barber. And I got to say, the guys over at Tad's and the gals over at Tad's on Oleander Drive, if you want a true barber shop experience at a relatively decent price, well, my man Fu, that's Phu, he can whip your hair he can make you look good. That's all I've got to say about that. That's Phu, my man Fu, over at Tad's Barbershop on Oleander. Just a word of advice for all the guys out there if you're looking to get your ears lowered, as the fish is here on this Monday morning. All right, we're 13 minutes in front of the hour. As I said, noticed on Market Street towards Ogden, Porter's Neck over the weekend, about a dozen or two folks out there flying the Cuban and American flags, standing with the people of Cuba. Folks like the Nutty Professor, Bernie Sanders, AOC, I guess got her talking points in order days after the unrest in the island nation 90 miles off of our shores. Pointed, two sentences towards the communist government, and then took most of the statement to speak out against U.S. policy towards Cuba and the economic embargo that's been in place for decades. A quick reminder to the folks out there that continue to view the communist regime in Cuba and elsewhere around the country, around the world, and sing praise towards these forms of governance. The U.S. embargo does not prohibit fishers in Cuba, anglers, from fishing. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not prohibit the Cuban people from eating meat. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not confiscate the food they harvest from the peasants. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not allow animals to die and fruits and vegetables to rot in the countryside while Cubans go hungry. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not export Cuban fruits and vegetables of the best quality to countries worldwide while Cubans go hungry. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not prohibit Cubans from having their own businesses on the island. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not destroy every sugar mill, textile factory, shoe store, canning factory due to its mismanagement. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not pay Cubans with Cuban pesos and forces you to buy food and essential products in dollars 3 times more expensive than their actual value. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not export medical personnel to other countries while the Cuban people die at home due to lack of medical attention. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not beat down and imprison its people for thinking differently. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not keep hundreds of political prisoners who have not committed any crime. The dictatorship does. The U.S. embargo does not keep hospitals in Cuba under levels that are seen, in third world countries. The dictatorship does. The list is endless, folks. The Cuban government always blames the U.S. embargo for all of its economic, political, and social failures. But the U.S. regularly authorizes the export of agriculture products, medicine, medical equipment, and humanitarian goods to Cuba. And since 1992, has authorized the export of billions of dollars of those goods to Cuba. In fact, the last year alone, the U.S. exported $176 million of goods to Cuba. In the first 6 months of 2021, Cuba imported $123 million worth of chicken from the United States. The Cuban government has an internal blockade on its citizens. It has the Cuban people imprisoned in Cuba, hostages of a totalitarian government. The list goes on and on and on. So don't buy the blame game, of course, laid out by some in our country when it comes to the people of Cuba fighting for freedom and liberty. Any blame on the U.S. economic embargo, and maybe it is bad policy, but it is not solely responsible, of course, for, the deaths of, who knows, untold amounts of people, while others, of course, sit in prisons for speaking out and up against the communist regime that has run that island nation for a long time. So check those sorts of statements at the door. We're 9 minutes in front of the hour here on the Big Talker FM.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey, if you've got a health concern and it's not responding to whatever you're taking, maybe a strong pharmaceutical, can I suggest you look into CBD? Now, maybe you don't sleep well or you're struggling to cope with life's ups and downs, or nothing seems to help the discomfort after strong physical activity. Seriously, you want to look into and try CBD, and the only source I trust is cbdistillery.com.